Hello, and welcome back to Over the Next Hill Fitness Podcast. I'm Carla Coffey, your coach and host for today's program. This program is brought to you by Coffee Crew Coaching. If you need a personal trainer or a running coach, if there's a 5K you want to do, or you've never lifted weights, or you have some mobility issues, email me, Carla at coffeecrewcoaching.com, and we'll see if I can help you. I might not be able to, but you never know if you don't try. You can also go to the show notes, and there are a few discounts in there that probably are still active that you can get some discounts on some great products. And if you wouldn't mind hitting the 5-star and give me 5 stars for this, share this episode, follow the program. If you're listening to this podcast on your favorite podcast channel, you can also watch it on YouTube and follow me there. You can follow me on the socials under Coffee Crew Coaching on Facebook and Instagram. And I think Threads. I'm on Threads as well. Clearly not a lot. But yeah, so please reach out to me there. Today I'm going to be talking to Karen Goudy. We had a real fun talk. I think you guys will really enjoy listening to her and her amazing training partner, April Rose. So we all might want to start running with April. She sounds like she could really do us all a big favor in our running and get us across that finish line. So let's listen into that story.
This is probably around mile 20, 21 maybe. We were passing this other couple, and based on their accents, I'm guessing they were from either Australia or New Zealand. And he was saying all the things I'd been saying about this, never going to do this again, bomb this, F-bomb that, just not having really hitting a wall. And she was the one giving him the pep talk. And as we're running by them, I was like, we were just having a very similar conversation. And so I think, again, there's this camaraderie. I think especially for those of us that were toward the back of the pack, there's a certain level of keeping each other going, because we would sort of leapfrog people. You'd see the same ones over and over again. At one point, toward the very end, they come up on this one guy who was walking, clearly struggling, younger African American guy, and I said to him, I came up behind him and I said, "Come on, man, you got this." I think we were probably at mile 23 or 24. We're very close to the end. I'm like, "Come on, man, you got this. If I got this, you got this. You can do it." And we sort of slowly jogged by, and he kind of started jogging again. And I noticed when I got my marathon photos that he crossed the finish line right behind us.
Welcome to the show, Karen. It's great to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Oh, me too. We'll see how it goes.
Yes, my first time.
Oh, well, mine too with you. So there you go. Hopefully it'll be our first one and only recording.
That's right.
So let's start with when and why you started running.
Oh gosh, I've been running really since I was in high school, I think. I was not a kid that liked team sports at all. I enjoyed swimming, but for fun, and we didn't really, I was at a rural uh, public high school in Vermont that definitely didn't have a swim team or any of the more exotic, expensive athletic programs. So if you weren't, playing soccer, basketball, softball, then you weren't playing sports in high school. So I started running, I think, just for fitness and fun, and I would be able to think things through when I was running, and I don't know, I just sort of did it for all those reasons. And then off and on throughout most of my life, I stopped for a while. In my early 40s, I was misdiagnosed with arthritis and was told I should stop running. So I stopped running for like a decade, and then found out back in my early 50s that was wrong. I do not have arthritis. That was bursitis. And that as long as I'm, careful and stretch and do all those things, I could start running again. So I started running again. This is pre-pandemic, but more seriously, right around the pandemic, I started running again.
Okay. So that was probably like the best news, wasn't it, when they said you could start running again?
Absolutely. I was like, hallelujah. Why didn't I see a rheumatologist years ago? But
Yeah.
anyway,
That's great. And I
Go
laugh when you
figure.
say that you didn't like team sports because, when I've applied for jobs, I always put I'm a team player. I'm really not. I'm really not.
See, I'm a team player in a work environment, but when I'm on a sports team, I don't want to be trash talked by the other team. I don't want
Mm,
all my teammates screaming at me to throw them the ball. Like that was all just way too much pressure for me when I was a teenager.
yeah, I would agree with that because, yeah. And I don't like, I mean, I don't mind losing, but I don't want to be the reason I lost for a whole team. So that's the other thing, it's too much to
Exactly.
bear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So you showed me you've got a bunch of medals in the back. Tell me about your races and what you've done and what you have planned.
Yeah, so gosh, so I started running with a buddy, my running buddy, April Rose, about 4 years ago, 4 years ago this past summer. And she was getting back into it. She's 18 years younger than I am, but wanted to get back into running after having taken a break after having kids and whatever. And so we started running together, and she's really been the one. I would never would have occurred to me to run in any races until she sort of got me into that. And I realized it's a lot of fun to do that
Yeah.
because, there's a crowd usually, at least at the beginning and the end, and you get a medal from it, and there's sort of a camaraderie that we've developed. So yeah, I started running 5Ks, and then she talked me into a 10K. And it's funny because my husband, who used to run, was like, 10K is really far. And I was like, yeah, I know, but we'll work up to it. Did the 10K. That was a lot of fun. Then we did a 10 miler, and then signed up for a half marathon. So we kind of worked our way up, and did a few of those kinds of distances. And I always swore I would never, ever, ever in a million years run a marathon
Hmm.
because I've heard what that can do to your body, and I respect my body too much to punish it like that. And then my running buddy got lucky a couple of years ago and got a lottery spot for Chicago.
Oh,
So she
nice.
ran Chicago last fall, and I had total marathon envy after she did that. I was like, dang it, if she can do it, I might be able to do it too. And I know I'm a lot older than she is, but maybe if I train and whatever. So she and I decided that we made a little pact that I said, if you'll be my coach and you'll run it with me, because she's faster than I am, so she could have totally left me in her dust,
Yeah.
um, then I'll do it. She was like, great. So we picked one. We tried to get into New York, didn't get a lottery spot, and don't really have the financial means to do one of the charity ones. So
Right. Yeah.
we decided to find a marathon that would work in terms of timing and location and whatever, and signed up for Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so we just did Toronto 3 weeks ago.
Oh, well, congratulations. So you're
Thanks.
first. And you said
Yeah.
your friend's name is April Rose?
April Rose, yeah.
Okay. So
She's amazing.
you have to
She's
blame
an
her for
amazing,
everything, right?
right. It's all her fault. Exactly. And so as we were running it, and I was really hitting a few walls, let's just say, she kept me going because they were definitely, I needed some pep talks, let's just say.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so take us from uh day one when you've decided to do it and then
Mm-hmm.
you sign up, right? And then it's when the
Mm-hmm.
training really starts because reality has hit, right?
Yeah. Like, oh no, what have I done?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you can always bail and you're just out a couple $100, but
It
So
doesn't
tell
feel good to bail. It doesn't feel good
no.
to bail, and that's part of what kept me going during the marathon too, because bailing, I felt like failure was not an option. So,
Yeah. So tell
um,
us about your training runs, maybe some things you learned during those,
hmm
things you hated, things you loved.
yeah. So like I said, because she'd been through it before, I kind of designated her my marathon coach. So we sat down, we signed up in March, I want to say, for the marathon. She, found us a VRBO to stay in for the weekend, whatever. And then we sat down with calendars and kind of mapped out. She followed for her training plan when she did Chicago. She followed one of the Hal Higdon training
Hmm.
plans, marathon
Okay.
training plans. So we basically just copied one of those and mapped it all out on a calendar so that we have a physical reminder of like what we had coming up each week in terms of runs. And then of course, life happens, so you have to shift, the Tuesday run becomes the Monday run and whatever. But basically we were running 3 times during the week, So typically Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we do a long run on Saturday or Sunday if Saturday didn't work, but usually it was Saturday morning. Um, and yeah, and you just start accumulating. And before that, the training plan officially kicked in at the beginning of June, we started running together more often just to kind of build up base miles so
Mm-hmm.
that when we did start the training plan, that wouldn't kick us in the butt quite as hard.
Right.
And I had some summer vacations that I had to work around. I took a cruise in June, and on that one I was like running on a treadmill, which I hate.
Yeah.
And so, did some of that, but definitely didn't keep up with the mileage that I needed to on that. So tried to make up for it a bit when I got back. But hiccups like that happen, but we
Mm-hmm.
still managed to make it happen. I did a run in I was had a long weekend in New York City with a good friend of mine and I who were celebrating 50 years of friendship with a little girls' weekend in New York, and I ran 9 miles along the Hudson, and it was gorgeous. It was the most beautiful. I'm so happy I did it because it was the most beautiful run, one of the more beautiful runs I've done. And you wouldn't
Yeah.
expect that in New York City, right? So,
Right. Yeah. Did you
um,
see that pod park on the Hudson?
yes, I love that one. That's really
Wasn't it
cool.
great?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's really cool. I love that one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like out of the way if you didn't know it was there. Like we stumbled upon it.
Right? So like I
Yeah.
tried to some degree, I tried to incorporate, you try to make it fun, right? And there's
Mm-hmm.
always the camaraderie, right? So we would one of the things we love about running together is we're chatterboxes. We talk. We stop and take pictures of things. We're like, you know what, we're going to be running for miles. We might as well enjoy the scenery. So we're
Mm-hmm.
running on rail trails and we're in central Massachusetts. So it's a beautiful part of the state. So we're taking pictures of wildlife. We encountered a moose on one of the runs that she had to do without me because I was traveling. She encountered a bear.
Wow.
We were taking pictures of, mushrooms and sunrises and, all kinds of things like that. So it was just, got to enjoy the journey. So
For sure.
her husband would join us for some of the shorter segments. Like he might not do the whole long run, but he would join us for like the last few miles of it or whatever. He might bring their dogs along. So um, we had, I don't know. It was a good kind of groove we had going on. And like I said, we did have, like I had a vacation in August, and what happened there, I made a mistake. I knew I needed new running shoes. I knew nothing new on race day. So I got new running shoes in like early August and I started running with them. But instead of alternating old shoes and new shoes, which is what I should have done, I was just running on the new shoes. And it turns out the new shoes had a significant difference in terms of heel to toe drop than my old shoes had. And I ended up on my vacation with shin splints, like a really bad case of shin splints on my right shin. So I literally just had to like ice it and elevate it for days. And I was terrified that this was going to completely derail my whole marathon plan and that I wasn't going to be able to run it and I was going to have to give up my bib. And you know how you catastrophize in your head
Yeah. It's a
around all these
snowball.
things. So I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to get that 17-mile run in that I'm supposed to get in this weekend and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it was just, anyway, total panic. But I I did I did all the research and did what I was supposed to do and iced and elevated and slowly kind of stretched and tried to like do some recovery exercises and managed with the help of the internet to figure
Yeah.
out how to do all of
Dr.
that.
Google.
Right, Dr. Google, gotta love it. And managed to get um, it recovered so that by the time I got home, it wasn't hurting me anymore. Even toward the end of the vacation, I was able to take some like shorter hikes and things, and it was okay. And then started kind of eased back into the running again, and it was fine ever after that.
Oh, good.
Knock wood, I managed, I smartened up, ran on, did all that on my older shoes, and then got new shoes that are basically the exact same thing, just the newer model
Hmm.
with the same heel to toe drop and lesson learned.
Yeah. Those little goofy things that trip you up. Well, I gotta say that I would say that most of us don't get to run our training runs with someone. every single run. I know that I run most of my runs alone, and then on the weekend I run with my friends, and we do, a long run or whatever. But yeah, because of our shifts, and they've got children at home, obviously still little ones, and I don't, and so everything is always chaos in our lives, and we only can peel away on the weekend to do stuff with people, or with each other, I should say. So, what was it like learning to fuel on those as your runs got
Oh,
longer?
that was another lesson that I had to learn, because one of the other things I started doing about a year and a half ago was intermittent fasting. And so shorter runs I would do fasted, and made the mistake of, with my longer runs, thinking that I could start them fasted and then just bring fuel and fuel, around mile 5 or 6, and that would be okay. But then I ran into, which one run is it? It was I think it was one of my longer ones. I want to say like an 18-mile run or something. Or no, I don't think it was it was, anyway, I figured out at one point that, like, oh no, I know what it was. It was a 12-mile run, and I shouldn't have been struggling on a 12-mile run because I've done half marathons before. But I really hit a major wall on one of our 12-mile long run. I was trying to figure out why, like was causing it. And my running buddy said, I think you might want to try fueling differently. And I did a little research on it and was like, yeah, she's probably onto something there. Because what happens is, if you don't, for the longer ones, if you don't, even if you're used to fasting for like a 4 or 5 or 6 mile run, if you don't pre-fuel, then the fuel doesn't get into your system in time, is for what I figured out in hindsight. Anyway, so I
Hmm.
figured that out, started toying around with fueling before a run. And once I started doing that, then it, like, I was fine. But that really kicked me in the butt hard on that run, and I had to learn that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, and that is when I first started running marathons. That was the thing that I had to learn, and probably all of us, because you hit that wall. For me, it was like
Mm-hmm.
right around mile 17, I would hit the wall. And once I figured out, you can't catch up. You have to stay ahead of it. And
Mm-hmm.
once I realized that, and I had more of I always say like a steady drip of fuel, right? Because I do a little
Mm-hmm.
bit on each, like, I don't know, every couple of minutes, just like one piece of candy or whatever. Then
Mm-hmm.
I don't hit the wall anymore. So that was really, really helpful for me.
Yes. Yes. It's amazing how there's just so many things that you don't, at least I didn't think about
Hmm.
necessarily until they bit me in the butt.
Yeah. 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 And unfortunately, that's how we learn a lot of things.
Right?
you know, oh, that would never happen to me. And then all of a sudden you go, oh,
Yeah, no.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you ran in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about, so you said that you had, she had to kind of get you over some humps. What
Oh,
was it?
yeah.
Do you remember like the mileages and why
Yeah.
you felt that way and what she said that made you go?
Well, let's see. Yeah, so a few different things were going on. So also, while the marathon was happening, just prior to that, my brother, who normally lives in Alaska, had come to Massachusetts to have heart surgery.
Mm,
And while he was recovering from heart surgery, he had a massive cardiac arrest.
gosh.
And yeah, so he was in the cardiac ICU at Mass General. Um, and I had but he had planned his whole surgery around my marathon. So part of what was motivating me at the marathon was, all right, you know what? He's in his own marathon right now trying to survive. So you can't, like, failure's not an option. Like, the least you can do is follow through on your marathon. So I had that kind of going on in my head as well, which helped. But I think I was doing really well. I've got some, a little bit of arthritis in my lower back. Probably should have done some more core training than I actually did. So, race day, things were a little stiff. But anyway, my left leg really started to bug me at about, when, I don't know, probably right around mile 15. My left hip and my quad, like the whole thing was just kind of mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
We had our support squad had come to meet up with us at we had given them designated places to meet up, and that support squad was my husband and her sister and daughter were there to like with signs and also with supplies if we needed them to cheer
Nice.
us on. And so we had biofreeze with my friend. So I managed to, I kind of slatted some biofreeze, sprayed some biofreeze all over that left leg and kept it going. But I definitely was feeling it. So that was at mile 11 that they met up with us. And then the half marathoners peeled off and I kind of waved longingly in their direction and wished I was one of them. And then hit mile 15 and that's when it really got hard. But I basically she was energetic and chipper and just kept saying, "Nope, you can do this. Come on, we can do hard things. Like you can do this. We've trained for this. Like you got this." Just kind of kept reminding me of all the hard work we put into training, and that again, failure was not an option. So, it was funny though. At one point, so I would sort of get past that, and we were doing some walk run as well. That helped. Doing some run walk run definitely helped. I probably should have done more of that earlier on and saved. But when I looked at my laps, I actually did okay. Like the first more than half of the race, I was keeping up a pretty solid pace. So that was good. And it wasn't like I went too fast at the beginning. I think I just needed to like maybe spread out my energy a little bit better. But anyway, um, at one point, after she'd been giving me another pep talk, this was probably around mile 20, 21 maybe, we were passing this other couple, and based on their accents, I'm guessing they were from either Australia or New Zealand. And he was saying all the things I'd been saying about this, never going to do this again, F-bomb this, F-bomb that, just not having a really hitting a wall. And she was the one giving him the pep talk. And as we're running by them, I was like, we were just having a very similar conversation. And so I think, again, there's this camaraderie. I think, especially for those of us that were toward the back of the pack, there's a
Mm.
certain level of keeping each other going because we would sort of leapfrog people. You'd see the same ones over and over again. At one point, toward the very end, they come up on this one guy who was walking, clearly struggling, younger African American guy, and I said to him, I came up behind him and I said, "Come on, man, you got this." I think we were like probably at like mile 23 or 24. We're very close to the end. I'm like, "Come on, man, you got this. If I got this, you got this. You can do it." And we sort of slowly jogged by and he kind of started jogging again. And I noticed when I got my marathon photos that he crossed the finish line right behind us. And
Oh,
then and I saw him at the end right after we got our medals or whatever. And I was like, "All right, you did it. Yay," kind of thing. So again, I think there's this camaraderie that you have with the people that are sharing in the pain.
yeah. Yes. What is that saying about misery loves company, right?
Misery
That's what
loves
it is. Yeah,
company. Yeah,
misery loves company. So there we
exactly.
go.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so
Yep.
true. When you're, you know, right there towards the end. It's one of the things I
Hmm.
like to say when, someone's walking on like a 5K. You've got, like if it's where you were at 23, you got a 5K left.
Yep.
You do 5Ks in your sleep. Come on, let's go,
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
So,
Well, that's part of what my running buddy had to keep reminding me of is like, come on, we've trained for this. You can do this. Yes, whatever. And I think that it helped that she wasn't struggling too.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think if we'd both been struggling, it would have been harder, but and there was oh Toronto was great because there were people, even for those of us that were definitely, some of the I wasn't the very dead last. There were still like 70 plus people behind me according to the stats.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I was close to last and I was definitely pushing the time limit. But there were still people cheering us on, which I was impressed by because I should think by then the crowds would have gotten bored with the whole thing. But and there was a young woman who was out on a bicycle bicycling on the sidewalk as we're running in the road, and she saw, I think I was walking, or I know I had stopped to stretch at a light pole, and she's like, "Can I help you guys? Do you need anything?" And she had in her little bike basket this sort of like, all these little supplies to help out people, energy gels and biofreeze and whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really sweet. She was just sort of her own little, marathon support crew for those of
Yeah.
us at the caboose end of things. So yeah.
Traveling aid station. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, like I had all this, and then as I was running by in this one spot where we're kind of heading up a ramp, like an overpass sort of thing, I heard someone shouting, and I look off in the distance. There's a person inside their apartment, up against their plate glass window, like shouting, like "Yay, you go!"
That's
kind of
so
thing. And they were
cool.
like, and I looked around, like it was just us. It wasn't like there was a big crowd or anything.
Yeah, I
So,
often want those people to just kind of show up on my practice runs, you know? Yeah. Uh, I was thinking that I wonder had your friend April, had she
hmm
been having trouble, that probably would have turned it around for you, and you would have become the cheerleader and forgotten about your pain. So she may have had some little niggles or whatever,
yeah,
and but she was so busy encouraging you.
that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, because I know for me, if I can find someone to encourage, I forget about my
Yep,
problems, you
yep,
know, because I'm concerned with them. So that could have been the case for her.
hmm
And so
yeah,
maybe had she switched it around, then you could have encouraged her and you would have forgot about your pain.
hmm yes,
So
absolutely.
you crossed the finish line and then you immediately signed up for another marathon.
No, no.
No.
Oh no, heavens
Okay.
no.
Tell,
No.
tell us
In fact,
about that.
my running buddy kept insisting, "Oh, come on, you want to do another one. You'll want to do another one." And I was like, I think this might be a one and done for me.
Okay.
But, but we'll see. I mean, I've learned never to say never because I always said never a marathon, and here I have done a marathon.
Yeah.
And I do know, I guess in hindsight, what I would do differently next time in terms of, certain things anyway. Lots of lessons have been learned and I think will continue to be learned. I think
Hmm.
I haven't started running again yet. I did a little research on running on the sort of marathon recovery
Hmm.
and thought about it. But what I've seen is recommends just doing other stuff, cross training. I noticed my hips are super tight. Like I've always had pretty tight hips anyway,
Hmm.
but they're really tight now. So I've been working with, like, I took a yoga class yesterday.
Oh,
I have
good.
a kind of a one-on-one yoga instructor. Um, and so, just trying to like ease back into it. From what I saw online, they recommend, but giving yourself anywhere for at least a couple of weeks, but as
Hmm.
much as a month to kind of recover, do other cross train, swim, bike, do other things, and then ease back into running again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I had mentioned to somebody, they were saying they didn't feel like running. Maybe that was you. I can't remember online.
mhm,
And I said that when you want to, then do it because you get that
right,
desire back to to go out again. You start seeing people running, going, man, I wish I was running right now. Oh, hey, I can, because nothing's holding me
mhm,
back. So when you get that, then go. Don't rush it if but
right.
for me, I'm often ready before my body is. So I have to remind myself, no, you need to take another week off or whatever.
Right.
But
Yes.
but yeah,
Yep.
when you get that desire back in your brain where you're really jonesing to get out there again, kind of like that feeling of when they
Mm-hmm.
told you could run after
Yep.
not having run, that's when you
Yes.
know, yep, it's time.
That's when you know, yeah. And
Hmm.
I do feel that a little bit like I'm definitely like my running buddy and her husband and a neighbor of theirs were going for a run this morning. And I was going to potentially join them, except that I had this whole thing with my cat who disappeared last night and got picked up by animal control that I've been dealing with this morning. So I used that as an excuse not to go for a run this morning. But I do feel like I will definitely get back to it. Like I'm not definitely not quitting.
Yeah, good, good.
So yeah.
So, so afterwards I've seen, like some of the little memes and stuff of people looking up the
Hmm.
stairs, like I got to climb that flight of stairs. What was
Yeah.
that like for you? Were you like going, oh man, this is terrible?
Yeah. So stairs weren't so bad. It was interesting. I'd probably say the most painful part of the whole marathon was after the marathon, the walk from the like party at the finish line back to um the place that we rented, which was, mind you, only like a 15-minute walk. It wasn't, I should say, normally probably wouldn't even be a 15-minute walk, but that day was a 15-minute walk. Like my feet just, I think because we'd been training mostly on like trails and stuff, the fact that the race was on pavement, I think
Yeah.
was another kind of thing that we didn't really count for. Probably should have trained a little bit more on pavement than we did, because my feet, which had never ever bothered me on any of the training runs, were definitely, I had some blisters, which again, I've never had blisters on a run before. Um, and just, just they hurt, they ached, they were like
Yeah.
done. So I think that that walk back was long and painful, even though it really wasn't long.
Yeah.
But stairs, I don't remember stairs being too much of an issue. We did have to take some, but yeah, they weren't horrible.
Hmm.
But
Good.
definitely, like when if I do like if I crouch way down on the floor because I have pets, so crouch way down on the floor and I go to get up, it's only in the last couple of days that I've gotten to the point where I can go from a on the floor kind of squat to standing without pushing myself off of something, or
Okay.
without using my hands to assist me,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, that's good. You're it sounds like almost fully recovered. So good job
Yeah,
being patient with that, with your
right.
recovery.
Yeah.
So if you were to run another marathon coming up,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, is there one that you have your sights on that you're like, oh, I could see myself maybe?
I don't know. My running buddy really wants to do the Marine Corps Marathon,
Okay. And that's
and
in
but I'm
DC,
like,
right?
but that's DC,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to. I feel like I need to avoid warm wherever possible and do a nice cool one because
Hmm.
the training runs that were in the cooler days were definitely the ones that I did better on. And marathon day in Toronto was 70 and humid, so that was
Oh,
something else that really impacted the race for me, I think. It was supposed to be nice and cool in Toronto in October, one would think, but it
yeah.
was that bizarre weekend where there was a warm spell that passed through the region and it was 70 and humid, and I was sweating like a beast. And I think that impacted, I think that's part of what caused some of my cramping too, was the electrolytes, even though I was replenishing them. So I thought I didn't do a good enough job, I don't think. So
Mm.
anyway, so I would probably try to avoid a warm weather marathon for sure. Um, so I don't know. I've heard Philly is fun and a little bit hilly, but at least nice and cool in November in Philadelphia. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure I want to do another one. If I were to do one, I would probably try to find one that was had a forgiving time limit and that was in a cooler time of year or cooler climate. So we'll
Hmm.
see.
Yeah. I think in New York, upstate New York, the Wine Glass Marathon, I feel like that's in the fall.
Mm,
I
mm-hmm.
would love to do that one, to go
Yep.
out there and do that one. Um,
Huh. So wine glass marathon.
yeah, I can't
Hmm.
remember what town it's in,
Hmm.
but I feel like it's in the fall. And
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to do that one originally when I was doing my states, and I did New York, but I ended up doing Buffalo instead. Um,
Um,
So it's funny that you were saying about the heat this past summer when we would be on our runs. I'm like, I recall people used to water their lawns and I would
mm-hmm.
run through the sprinklers, go put my hat in the sprinkler and pop it back on
Mm-hmm.
my head. There was none of that this summer. I was so disappointed in my neighborhood. I'm
Oh,
like, how come none of you people are watering your lawns
right.
today? It was
Oh.
terrible. Yeah, but that is nice when you do a marathon and they have like one of the aid stations will put up this there's
Mm-hmm.
a it's like a hoop that you can run through and it sprinkles water on you. It's kind of like a little car wash, and or they'll have buckets of cold ice sponges that you can squeeze or stick your hat in.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
always that's always nice for those marathons. They'll do that
That
for you.
is, yeah. They did say there was one thing that I was listening to. I was listening to, there's a podcast called Fuel for the Soul or something like
Hmm.
that that has to do with, fueling for runs and whatever. And
Hmm.
they were talking about warm weather marathons and long distance runs and whatever. And they were talking about how, if you need to go to one of the next aid station that has water, instead of drinking it, pour it over your head.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
just,
Yep.
cool yourself off one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. When I ran Vegas, we started at, I don't know, like 5 in the morning or something. It started at 77
Hmm.
degrees. And so towards the end, once the sun came up and I was hitting those aid stations, I was sticking my head under their water. I said, I'm
Yep.
sorry if I'm wasting this, but this is going in my
Right.
head.
You've got to do what you've got to do,
Yeah.
like,
You got
yeah,
to keep your brain
absolutely.
cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So was there during your training and stuff, were there fueling options that you found that didn't work for you, or you had some favorites that you can tell the listeners that,
Hmm.
I recommend this or this didn't work for
Sure.
me?
Um, let's see. I experimented with a few things. I don't love the UCAN gels. They're sort of, I don't know, there's a flavor to them that I don't love, but I've discovered that if I put the UCAN powder, the unflavored powder, in a smoothie and had that before, like in the morning before a long run, that would help, excuse me, that would help to keep me going.
Okay.
Right. So, because my running buddy swore by the UCAN stuff as like good for, fueling you, not giving you the big spike and dip, but giving you a nice even bit of energy. And she gave me the powders to try because she didn't like the powders in water, but then I saw on the packet that they recommended putting it in a smoothie, and I tried that, and that worked pretty well. I also um, experimented. I saw on the website of the marathon that they were going to be giving out like, goo brand stuff. So I thought, well, I've used some of those before, so why don't I experiment with some more of those? And they make a kind called Roctane, which is like
Hmm.
their longer distance. Don't love the flavor of those, but like there's a odd, excuse me, bear with.
Yes. You see me sipping my coffee. At least you have water.
Sorry, all of a sudden I have a tickle in my throat.
That's okay. Yeah, I used to do the Roctane
Hmm.
and the goos and I've tried the UCAN. For me the UCAN the consistency I think for me was
Hmm.
kind of weird. I struggled with the way it felt in my mouth, but
Yeah, yeah. So I've tried a few different things like that. I'm trying to think what were the ones that I grabbed. So I tended to like I liked the regular goose well enough, and those were the ones they were going to be handing out at the race. Turns out I ended up not really taking any of the race ones. I just packed my own. I did
mhm.
experiment a little bit with pickle juice
Oh
because of the whole
yes.
cramping thing. So I got these little pickle juice shots, and I'm not sure why or how they work, but they do work. It's a pretty temporary fix, but it does work.
Yeah, my
Um,
husband saves all the pickle juice for me through the summer, and I just drink it out of the
mhm.
jar. I love it.
Right.
I don't really care for pickles, but I love pickle juice.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah,
Yeah,
weird.
the actual electrolyte stuff that I love, 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 and that I use all year round now, is Element.
Yeah, yeah.
And I get the raw unflavored kind, and
Hmm.
I'll just keep that in my water. Um, especially when I was training, I just even when on the days when I wasn't running, I just always kept try to keep my electrolytes up.
Sure.
Um, and yeah, so that stuff is great, and I put that in my whatever I'm drinking a lot of the time. So yeah, I just have them on a like a subscription at this point
Hmm.
because I go through so much of it. I have to say I did like the one of the things that Goo makes that I did like, and I had that as like my fuel sort of mid-run fuel was they make energy waffles,
Oh,
and some of them are caffeinated as well. So I experimented a little bit with that, which I found to be helpful. And then the salt stick makes tablets of electrolytes. So
yeah.
they're like little pills. Chew them, you just swallow them. They look like little, magnesium pills or whatever, but
Okay.
they're salt stick. And so I had those in my pouch with me and just periodically would take one of those, and it actually helped out some other runners with some of those too because I brought extra. So I was I was dealing salt stick
I love it.
on the run, but yeah.
So, one of my friends that I run with, I had always had the caplets, like you're saying, that you swallow for the
Mm-hmm.
salt pills, and
Mm-hmm.
she had one. She gave me because I had forgotten mine. This was several years ago, but it was a chewable. But she
Mm-hmm.
didn't tell me it was a chewable, and it's huge.
Wow.
And I'm trying to swallow it, and I'm like, how are you swallowing that? She's like, Oh, sorry, it's chewable because I'm like dying. This thing
Oh,
is so
yes,
big. I'm
yes,
trying
yes.
to
Those you
swallow
do
it.
chew. And I do like the chewable ones too,
I do too.
but
Yeah.
sometimes it's just easier to be able to pop the other ones than to chew anything or
Yeah.
whatever.
So don't try to swallow those,
Yeah,
people. They're really
yeah.
tough.
And don't try to chew the other ones either, because I don't think they would taste very good.
Yeah. Got to get it right.
Mm.
Get your
Right?
stride right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So you don't have your eye on anything, any marathons in the coming up future. Do you have anything?
So nothing yet. I haven't registered for anything yet. I do want to, I think at some point, register for, like I said, either for a 10 miler or a half marathon or something to give me another goal to work toward.
Yeah.
For now, I sort of, I think once I get back into running again, I'll just use some of the Garmin challenges to keep me going. We like to joke, my running buddy and I and her husband and whatnot, because we all have Garmin devices on whose Garmin is nicer and whose Garmin is meaner, and because we all have different models, and it's
Yeah.
just funny because like my Garmin will say that we've done like a half mile more than her Garmin will say we've done or whatever, and I'm just like, well, mine's nicer, yours is just crabby,
Right.
or yours is stingy or whatever. It turns out hers is probably more accurate, but anyway, so yeah, so we use those challenges sometimes to keep us on the straight and narrow if we don't have an actual race that we're training for.
Sure. Yeah,
So
my
we'll
Garmin
see.
tells me I'm unproductive. I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know me. I'm not
Right?
unproductive.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Mm,
So do you have any words of wisdom for maybe somebody who has never
yeah.
run their first marathon or is like on the fence about it?
Yeah. I would say train. As long as you train, and what I would recommend, what I think I was a little lazy about and would do differently next time, is do more strength training. So don't just train runs, but incorporate some good core, especially if you're somebody who has any back pain, then especially if you have back pain when you run, like core, strengthen your core, do some, do some more strength training. I think I should have been doing more of that in hindsight. Then the marathon would have been easier, and I probably would have, finished it a little quicker with a little
Mm-hmm.
less pain if I had
Mm-hmm.
done more strength training. So, um, but I would say as long as you train for it, like we started our training plan kind of late May, early June, and then the marathon was October 19th. So, follow a training plan, have an accountability buddy if you're like me and you need somebody to keep you on the straight and narrow. Incorporate, though, I'd say at least a couple of workouts a week that are strength training workouts. That's where I was a little too lazy, I think. But yeah, and go for it.
I like that. Yeah, definitely go for it. But yeah, strength training is huge. I have an athlete currently that she doesn't do the strength training I give her.
Mm-hmm.
And I,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't make her. She,
Nope,
you know,
you
and
can't. You
I'm doing
can't.
my part of the job she hired me for. She has to do her part. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Exactly.
but yes, strength training is huge. Nice to hear it from other people besides me just harping on
Oh,
people.
it really is. And one of the other things too, I did a workshop a couple of years ago on chi running. So
Yeah,
especially if you're an older person, and that's where core is super important. So if you, the more you can incorporate, because I would find that when I was struggling, if I would tighten my core while I was running and try to remind myself of some of the chi running techniques, then it would take some of the pressure off my legs.
interesting.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
One of my friends found a chi running book in one of the free
Mm-hmm.
libraries in town. I
Mm-hmm.
have not yet read it, but I have it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll look forward to that.
Yeah, I
But,
think I think again they've got some, it's a great method.
hmm.
That and the run walk run, the Galloway method.
Yeah.
Um, those are all good, I think can be good things. And the other thing that I love is if you haven't read any of Martinus Evans, the Slow AF Run Club guy, he's so inspiring, and and I just love that his whole approach is that everybody can be a runner. Anybody can be a runner. You
Yep.
don't have to have a certain physique or have a certain, be a certain age or any of that. Like anybody can run. And I love that sort of embracing of it being a community for everybody, regardless of how much you weigh or how old you are or, you know,
How fast
whatever.
you are or not fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what? You're getting it done. one way or the other. And I love, there are some people that I follow on social media, and of course I can't think of their names right now, but that are, slower runners. And I just love that they're getting it done.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, the running community is a pretty fine community.
Yeah. And I think that it's getting less, there are still those people that will try to shame you if you don't do things a certain way or whatever. There's still going to be those purists in the running community, but I think, more and more and more people who don't necessarily fit the profile of what we used to think of as a runner
Mm-hmm.
um, are getting involved in running, and that's awesome.
I agree. Yep. Well, on those wonderful words, I think we'll wrap this up. I do appreciate
Great.
your time and being on the show, and
My pleasure. This
I
is
will look
exciting.
forward to, yes, I'll look forward to talking to you again after you do your next one.
We'll see about that. Don't hold
All
your
right.
breath.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Karen. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to Karen and I have a nice chat. How did you like the new commercial? I used to have that on the radio, and I said, "Hey, I paid for that. I'm going to plug that into the podcast." So I hope you enjoyed that. I thought it was fun and kind of plugs me a little bit more for my coaching. So, yeah, don't forget to follow and rate the show, share it. If you think there's somebody that would like to hear this information, you can go back several episodes. I've talked to several professionals, uh, Jeff Galloway being one of them. So you can look for his episode in there as well. And thanks again, and we'll see you soon.